The human body. Oh, what a marvelous thing. The psalmist wrote this. He said, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, when you study the body, whether you study it just from what we can see with our eyes or what you see on a microscopic level, the systems of the body and so forth, and how the body works as a whole, you are amazed. And nobody knows all there is about the body. You have specialists. You have ophthalmologists who specialize in the eye. You have dermatologists who study about the skin. You have cardiologists who study about the heart. You have specialists who are pediatricians for children. And then what do? They practice medicine, and they still don't know. Lots of times they don't know what your problem is. They'll try, give you 2 aspirins and go to bed. That may not be the cure at all. But what I'm saying is, I don't know all there is about the human body. No doctor does. They have specialists in an area, and they will admit they don't know all in their particular field. For example, the eye. The eye is a marvelous device. You could see very bright items, such as the sun, and you can see very dim items, because the eye has ability to open and close. You can discern various shapes and colors. Red, blue, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The muscles in your eye enable your eyes to turn. And of course with the neck you can turn even further. You can see more than 180 degrees. So the eye is a marvelous idea. It has the cornea, pupil, iris, various muscles, eyelids. It has a system by which we can wash our eyes. And then, isn't it neat that God designed us with 2 eyes, and that gives us some concept of depth perception. Aren't you glad God put some eyelids on there so at night you could shut out your eyes from your roommate's lights, studying up late at night? Blinking. You've got your own windshield wipers. You've even got washing fluid. You don't have to refill it all the time. You get ducts to drain your eyes and your nose, and even eyelashes. There's a purpose in the eyelashes. That keeps dust from getting in your eyes. And your eyebrows, and the fact that your eye is inside of a hard skull. Every one of us can testify to the fact we've been hit by a ball in the eye or some object in the eye. We would have lost our eye, except that the eye was inside and you got a big, hard, bony structure there to protect us. Was this by accident? No. Darwin acknowledged to suppose that the eye, with all the features like correcting for spherical and chromatic aberration, that all these features could have been formed by natural selection, he says, I confess, is observed in the highest degree. So even he recognized a real problem that the eye could have possibly been developed by natural selection. And then we have the ear. We have the outer ear, we have the middle ear, we have the inner ear, we have organ, like the organ of Cordy in there, eustachian tube, by the way, in the ear. If that gets clogged up, you can't hear well. That's important in your balance. Normal ear can hear sounds with power of only 1/10,000 trillionth of a watt. Another thing that's very amazing, the sun's 93 million miles away. If it wasn't for that vacuum, we would be deafened by the hydrogen helium bomb type explosions that are on the sun producing energy. But because of that vacuum, we don't hear those explosions. The ear is so sensitive that if it was more sensitive, we could hear the molecules of the air collide. You can actually do that. How many have ever taken a seashell and listened to a seashell? They try to tell you you're hearing the ocean. No, what you're actually hearing is the molecules of air colliding, because this seashell is sort of like the ear emphasizing. So you have a marvelous device. And in the ear you've got wax for a purpose. You've got hairs in there for a purpose. The writer of Proverbs says this: the hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord hath made both of them. And then there's the nose. That guy looks like he's got an ugly nose. Actually, a nose is very important. It's for breathing and smelling, but it's also the world's finest air conditioner. Because air gets moisturized, it gets filtered, it gets warmed or cooled depending on what temperature. The turbinate bones are that which warms the air. And then at the end of the nose, there are the nerves which give sensations of smell to the brain.
Really?
Filters dust out. Have you ever been in a very dusty climate and then you clean your nose? You have a lot of dust in your nose. And it's very
So
important.
it keeps it
From going into your lungs. The tongue. That's man's chief organ of taste. It's a 2-ounce organ, scripturally. It's all flesh. It causes us more problem than anything. Helps us chew, helps us to swallow, helps us to clear out our mouth. It enables us to taste. We can taste bitter taste, we can taste salty taste, taste sweet things, we can taste sour things. It's very important in forming sounds. Try to hold your tongue right now and say D. D. Say eight. Eight. J. How about W? Okay, or Z. All these sounds are hard to make, and the tongue helps us form sounds. And the tongue is sensitive to temperature. How many have ever burned your tongue? When you have hot soup or hot coffee or hot cocoa, you may think that's bad, but it's sure a lot better to have, quote, burned your tongue than burn your throat. So it protects you. And then it's an indicator of sickness. You've ever had the doctor or mother say, stick out your tongue, and they can tell a lot just by the tongue. You're wonderfully and fearfully made. Leave this class today praising God. You're wonderful. You're wonderfully made. You're God's creation. Don't any of you think you're ugly or inferior. You're wonderful. The skin is the largest organ of the body. It gives sensations of pain, texture. You can feel whether smooth or rough, heat, cold. The fingertips are probably the most sensitive to touch and pressure, while the skins of the hand and face have the fewest nerve endings to detect heat and cold. That's why we can actually have our face uncovered in cold weather. Those are probably the last things you really have to cover. The hair on our body. I think sometimes people wonder, well, what good does hair on your body? What does it do? Well, it serves as a dry lubricant. And for example, those of us men who wear slacks, it keeps your slacks from sticking to your legs. It also is a scent catcher, and there was an odor catcher. Pain is caused by the nerve endings in the skin, and that is a blessing because pain keeps us from getting hurt further. It prevents us from getting burnt or frozen. I've mentioned previously the body has really a marvelous temperature control system. If it's too hot, we perspire. The evaporation of the water cools it down, and we keep a normal temperature of about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. On the other hand, if we're cold, the body tells us to burn up some fuel, and that produces heat. It keeps us warm. We have approximately 2 million sweat glands, and of course it's the evaporation of sweat that causes the cooling. Skeletal system. A newborn baby has 350 bones, while an adult has 206 bones. The bones gradually fuse together. This forms the framework of the body. We have 650 muscles, we have tendons, we have ligaments. Just to catch a ball, for example, a center fielder, they estimate that 200 muscles must move in a split second. The bones are important also. They are manufactured, the red blood cells. And the human body is extremely strong in emergencies. I have an example in the book where a fella had a situation where a car fell on his son. He actually, with his adrenaline and so forth, was able to lift the end of a car weighing 3,600 pounds. When the jack was holding the car collapsed, he was able to lift it off his son. So that indicates that the skeletal system is very strong. One part of the skeletal system is, of course, the head. The head contains 22 bones. It's a protective casing for your brain and your eyes. Facial muscles in the face enables us to make up to 250,000 different changes in our face. So you can smile, you can frown, you can express surprise. Some people's facial expressions are more vivid than others. And the ribs. The ribs provide a cage for your heart, your liver, and your lungs. And they have an amazing ability to heal. I have broken ribs at least 2 different times. The first time I fell out of a truck when I was moving from Portland to England. I was hauling my stuff to St. Louis, and I was in such pain. I stopped at a hospital. They x-rayed me, said I had broken ribs, but they really can't do much for you except give you some pain medicine, and they normally heal in about 3 weeks. One other time I was with a class outing at school. We were tubing. I fell off a tube and broke a few ribs. 3 weeks, about what it takes to heal. The spine. Spine consists of 24 bones. They're called vertebrae. There are soft discs in between each vertebrae, and that stops the bone from hitting one another. And the nerve system travels through the spine, from the brain to various parts of the body. The arm and the hand. The forearm is amazing. It has 2 bones, and it enables your wrist to twist. Your elbow functions like a pulley. And the hand has 27 bones. Probably could count the various bones in the hand. It's been called nature's best tool. It's better than any metal or wooden tool. It can serve as a cup for water. It can serve as a hook for a bucket. It can operate hammer, tweezers, scissors, all kinds of devices. And it also enables you to make decisions, like you can feel the soil and know whether it's too wet to plant. The thumb alone is a marvelous device. If you want to perform a scientific experiment, tape your thumb to your hand and go 24 hours, and you'll find out how important that thumb is in items like writing, picking up coins, throwing a ball. All those things are very difficult without the thumb. The kneecap. Now, the kneecap actually prevents the leg from bending forward. Wouldn't it be awful if your leg bent both directions? The kneecap allows you to run, jump, kick, and the cartilage in the knee keeps the bones from rubbing against each other. Some people have injured that and have extreme pain in their knees. The foot. The arches in your foot act like shock absorbers and springs. It enables you to turn, twist, jump, change directions in a hurry. And also this shock absorber system prevents your backbone. You probably have stepped off a curb when you didn't see the step or something. It produces a lot of shock. Well, that foot normally provides protection in that type of situation. So that first system we spent a little time on is called the skeletal system. There are other major systems in the body, such as the digestive system. The first thing I want to show is the teeth. Normally you have 32 teeth, including the wisdom teeth. Sometimes those don't come out any longer, but they're probably in there. The teeth are the hardest material in your body. It's necessary to tear, break down, chew food into small pieces. Also in the digestive system, your saliva begins to work, and saliva has several functions. It moistens the food and has enzymes in it that start digestion. Water is very important for our digestive system, and our mouth and our throat get dry, and that tells us that we need to get some water. The stomach. The stomach's got to dissolve the food and yet not dissolve itself. If you took the acid from your stomach and put it on a wooden table, it would eat the varnish off of it in seconds. It's that strong. But yet it can't be so strong that it eats holes in your stomach. If you have holes in your stomach, that's called ulcers, a little bit of an imbalance. The liver produces bile, and the liver also stores vitamins and iron. If the liver quits, we'll be dead in 8 to 24 hours. The pancreas and the small intestines produce enzymes. The intestines, which are the final steps in the digestive system, which finally remove the solid waste out of the body. Then there's the urinary system to remove the liquid waste. You have kidneys and you have bladder, which are very important. If you have one kidney bad, you can survive with just one left. There is the respiratory system. The respiratory system is our breathing system. It brings air into the body, removes the carbon dioxide in the air by the process of breathing, and it takes the oxygen from the air, which is needed to break down food and release energy. We breathe through the nose, and we talked about the nose earlier being a great, marvelous filtering system, air conditioning system. The air reaches the lungs where the oxygen enters the blood. Then there's the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the muscle below the stomach that enlarges and contracts, and which causes us to breathe, to suck in air and exhale air. Sneezing is even important to us. Sneezing gets rid of some kind of speck of pollen or dust in our nose, while coughing gets rid of something that gets stuck in the throat. And then we mentioned one of the differences between man and ape, for example, is our chin. The chin, our tongue, and so forth is what enables us to make sounds. And we can produce voices in quite a range of sounds, quite a volume. The human voice has been heard as far as 6 miles away. And as I mentioned, the protruding chin enables us to make more sounds than any other mammal. The circulatory system is more or less the blood system. And of course, the chief organ of the circulatory system is the heart, a 1-pound organ that pumps blood through the arteries to all parts of the body. Our heart beats on an average of 70 times each minute. That's over 100,000 times per day. That's about 2 billion times your heart beats in a lifespan of over 70 years. Quite a organ. My dad used to manufacture roof truss machinery, and they used to put it in a fatigue test. He'd hook it up day and night. It would cycle to find out how long it would last. But no truss machine can cycle 2 billion times without fatiguing and breaking. Marvelous device. The heart, of course, pumps the blood through the arteries, and then the blood returns to the heart through the veins. They claim that our blood makes 600 complete trips through our body each day. Just 6 minutes, if your brain does not receive blood, normally you're going to have quite a problem the rest of your life. So it's so important that you get blood to the brain. The blood also contains platelets, fibrin, and so forth. If you bleed, it has the ability to coagulate, stop bleeding. Blood also contains antibiotics to fight disease. You also, in your circulatory system, have adrenaline, which can pump added energy into your body when you have a crisis, like I mentioned several slides back, of that man who lifted the car off of his son. And the pancreas gives sugar to the blood, which also gives us energy. The nervous system. There is 3 aspects of the nervous system. There's the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal column. There is the peripheral nervous system, which connects the brain and the spinal cord with other parts of the body, like the eyes and the nose and the ear, the lungs, and the heart. You can voluntarily, with your brain, move parts of your body. The central system is the spine and the spinal cord and the brain, but then to make your eye blink, then that's the peripheral system. To make your hands open and close, that's part of the peripheral nervous system. But there's also a part of your nervous system which is an automatic nervous system. These are things that you don't have to think about. The body does it automatically. For example, your stomach. You fall asleep, you don't have to tell your stomach to digest the food, it just keeps on doing it. You get hot, you don't have to tell your body, turn on the sweat glands, it automatically does it. You don't have to tell your heart, okay, keep on pumping 70 times a minute or whatever, it automatically does it. We are wonderfully and marvelously made. Talk about a great plan and design. The human brain, it has been compared to a video camera, a library with an estimated 25 million volumes. It's been compared to a supercomputer. It's been compared to a national communications center. And it weighs just 3 pounds. It is thought to be one of the most complex items of matter in the entire universe. Darwin thought that a savage, in other words, a prehistoric type man, had a brain only superior to that of an ape. But it's been proved that all people in society, whether they're savages, whether they're aborigines, whatever, they have a brain that's quite capable of learning if they're provided the right educational system. The brain does provide the ultimate design challenge for evolution because they have a hard time explaining such an extreme, complex matter. The reproductive system. Even if life could have evolved, what would enable it to reproduce itself? Well, God put the reproductive system in there so that we can reproduce itself. God told us to be fruitful and multiply. It is really interesting that you start out from a little sperm that weighs about 5 billionth of a gram. Now that's almost too small to imagine. A gram, there's 454 grams in a pound. So 1/454th, or like approximately 1/500th of a pound, is a gram. A sperm is 5 billionth. In other words, you divide that by a billion and multiply it by 5. That's how small the sperm is. And the human egg, which the sperm unites with, is a little bit larger, but it's 1/1,000,000th of a gram. Very, very tiny start. And from that tiny beginning of a 5 billionth of a gram sperm and a millionth of a gram egg, that has pre-programmed into it 2 eyes, 2 ears, 32 teeth, lungs, 206 bones, starting with 350 bones, which then is programmed to fuse into 206 bones, 650 muscles, and all the other amazing systems that we've talked about. So the organs and systems of our body did not evolve. They were made by a creator. Now, I am not a biochemist, but the DNA molecule is thought to be very important in the reproduction process. Let me give you a little example. I carry in my car an instruction manual. It's very important to follow the instruction manual. Some get a car and they don't realize they got to change the oil. Yeah, you got to change the oil or you're going to be in trouble after a while. If you follow the manufacturer's instructions, things will go better. Even a garage door opener says for safe operation, to ensure satisfactory operation, that garage door opener could result in personal injury or damage. Even a Coleman lantern says things like this in the instruction manual. Follow the instructions and warnings to avoid injury or fire. You could start a fire if you don't follow the instructions. Vacuum cleaner. The instruction manual of vacuum cleaner says use only for the job intended. It's not to clean a dog's tail. It's to vacuum the floor. Before you turn on your vacuum, read the instructions. With a stereo cassette player recorder, that's almost old-fashioned now, but if you read the booklet, you'll be able to enjoy the features. I heard of a guy who bought a car, he didn't even realize it had a tape player in it. You know, he could have enjoyed that tape player for years, but he didn't read it. You could buy a stereo cassette player and may not realize it had a radio in it, and then never enjoy the benefit of radio. So you read the instructions, and you'll find some features that it has and be able to enjoy it. Lawnmower says read this manual carefully. Otherwise, you can get hurt. You can get your foot cut off. Now, there are consequences for not following the manufacturer's instructions. Consequences like this: serious personal injury. The foot could be cut off, or be burned. Property damage could burn the house down. Fires. Lack of enjoyment of the features. And you could actually ruin the product. Plug it into the wrong voltage or something like that. You could actually ruin the product. Now, how about our creator? Does he, our maker, our manufacturer, does he have some instructions? What book contains our manufacturer's instructions? It's not creation versus evolution, scientific and religious considerations. It's the what? The Bible. That's the book for me. I want to commend you. I really do. I want to commend you for coming to a Bible college. A lot of people are telling you you're probably wasting your time. Have you ever heard anybody tell you that? Between my second and third year, I had a master's degree in chemical engineering. I got my master's there at the University of Minnesota while I was going here at ABI. I took a job with Moehlenpah in Philadelphia. Now, it was only supposed to be for summer, but a lot of the other employees didn't know it. When they heard I was leaving, and when they heard I was going back to Bible college, one fellow just came around and says, "You're a fool." That's just what he said. He says, "You're a fool. I know you don't learn here how to make millions, but you learn how to live a life." Thank God for the Word of God. It contains our manufacturer's instructions. What's the consequences if you don't follow His instructions? Some serious consequences. Personal injury and damage. What happens if you spend time with a strange woman and some of the things, the dart can strike through your liver, and there's lots of things that can happen to you if you don't follow His instructions. And then there are blessings. The promises of God, answered prayer, lots of blessings in serving God. That if you don't know anything about God, you won't enjoy His blessings. And last but not least, the consequences of not following His instructions are eternal damnation. We don't preach this very much. It was brought up in class today, but there is a lake of fire. There is a place where the liars and whoremongers and adulterers and so forth are going to spend forever. I don't want to go there. Instead, the book tells us about a place that we can go to that we've never been before, where God is preparing a place for us. Thank God for the hope that we have in Jesus Christ.